All right, let's break down what's happening. I've got some major updates coming in, and you'll want to hear this. Ursula von der Leyen is holding on to her position as the head of the European Commission, which, frankly, wasn't much of a surprise. Two separate proposals to issue a vote of no confidence against her failed to get the majority support they needed in the EU's legislative body. During the vote today, the centrist parties all lined up to back her leadership. Consequently, the no-confidence resolutions, which were pushed by right-wing and radical left groups in the European Parliament, just didn't get the numbers. The proposal from the right-wing Patriots for Europe group was defeated with 378 votes against and only 179 in favour, with 37 abstentions. A similar motion from the left was shot down by 383 votes to 133, with 78 abstentions. In a brief statement on social media, Ursula von der Leyen herself expressed her deep gratitude for the powerful support she received. It's also worth noting she wasn't even in Strasbourg for the vote. I have to tell you, I spent years on the inside of a major media corporation. I saw firsthand how the real stories get buried and narratives get spun to serve an agenda, and I just couldn't be a part of it anymore. That's why I'm here, on my own, telling you what's actually going on behind the curtains. If you believe in independent reporting and want to help me keep this channel alive, please hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe even consider becoming a sponsor. Your support means everything and allows me to do this work. Now, even though von der Leyen survived, European experts and political analysts are pointing out that this was the third attempt to remove her in a very short period. They're saying it casts a serious shadow over her second term. In their view, there's no silver lining for her here, even if she doesn't see it that way. We'll have to watch closely to see how this unfolds. Meanwhile, over in Germany, the coalition government has finally agreed on a package of measures to save the economy and tackle rising unemployment after hours upon hours of negotiations. The situation is dire, as the total number of unemployed people in Germany topped 3 million back in August, which is the highest it's been in decades. Manufacturing companies, the very engine of the country's post-war economic miracle, are continuing to cut jobs. Friedrich Merz stated that the country is facing one of the most challenging periods in its recent history amid all this global turmoil. The new measures aimed at stabilizing the economy include financial incentives to encourage pensioners to keep working. They're also introducing stricter rules for anyone receiving unemployment benefits. The message is clear: if you can work in Germany, you're expected to work. Also on the agenda in Germany today, auto industry executives had a meeting with Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The German government invited the heads of major car manufacturers and associations to an auto summit of sorts. The goal was to inject some new life into this critical industry and discuss new incentives to encourage people to buy electric vehicles. We'll have to wait a little longer to find out what specific strategy they come up with, but I'll be sure to report on it. It's no secret, and you've heard me talk about this before, that the automotive industry is going through one of the most severe crises in its entire history. Now, shifting gears, there is some incredibly important news coming out of Israel today. It seems a resolution has been reached. The war most likely is over, or at least we can certainly hope it is. Israel and a militant group have signed an agreement for a ceasefire and the release of hostages in the Gaza Strip. This has been confirmed by world media outlets. Both Israelis and Palestinians reportedly met the news of the signed agreement with celebrations. In Tel Aviv, people were out in the streets singing, hugging, and crying with joy. Very soon, all Israeli hostages are expected to be freed. In return, Israel will begin a partial withdrawal of its troops from the Gaza Strip and release Palestinian prisoners, including some who are considered particularly dangerous. There's more to this story. Many Israelis today are expressing particular gratitude to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. In their opinion, this deal simply would not have happened without him. The mayor of one Israeli city even wants to name a stadium after Donald Trump. There's also a new waterfront promenade being built in Tel Aviv that will bear his name, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu personally laid the first stone for that project a while back. On top of that, the office of the Israeli Prime Minister has called for Donald Trump to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. He deserves it, was the loud and clear call coming directly from Benjamin Netanyahu's office. At the same time, over in France, after talks with the resigned prime minister, a man named Licarnou, President Emmanuel Macron has decided against calling for early parliamentary elections. Instead, he will appoint a new head of government. Macron is also continuing to reject any idea of his own resignation. We're now expecting the name of France's new prime minister to be announced by Friday evening, so we are watching that situation very closely. The mystery of who will win the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize also remains a hot topic. This Friday at 11:00 a.m., the winner will be announced. The decision has already been made, and only 6 people in the world know the result. For everyone else, it's like waiting for a season finale. Yesterday, during a meeting with journalists, Donald Trump was again asked if he expects to win the prize. "I have no idea," the American president responded. He then emphasized that as president, he ended 7 armed conflicts and that the United States is close to ending an 8th. He believes that no one in history has managed to end so many wars in such a short period of time. But in his words, they will probably find a reason not to acknowledge his accomplishments. He suggested that the committee's decisions might be politically motivated. And as we know, Donald Trump's candidacy for the Nobel Peace Prize has been endorsed by the leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Israel, Cambodia, and Rwanda. Representatives for 7 Israeli hostages have also expressed their wholehearted support. And while we're on the topic of the US, I should add that the National Guard has begun guarding federal facilities in Chicago. About 500 troops are involved in this operation so far. As you know, President Trump has been actively sending military units to cities run by Democrats, claiming there's a surge in crime that needs to be brought under control. It seems that process is now in full swing. If you're finding this analysis valuable, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. Now for something a bit different but no less interesting. Over in Strasbourg, members of the European Parliament have finally made a decision that they believe will, without a doubt, change the course of history. Vegan burgers and schnitzels are no longer burgers and schnitzels. That's right, you will no longer be able to call them that. From now on, they'll have to be called things like soy patties, plant-based discs, or alternative pieces. Call them whatever you want. Just don't call them by meat-related names. This was all done, apparently, so that no one confuses a real meat patty with a vegan one. This has already sparked anger among some MEPs, particularly from Germany. Their frustration isn't with the renaming itself, but with the fact that during such a difficult and complicated time for everyone, politicians are busy with, and I quote, nonsense. German parliamentarians are in stupor, declaring, "We cannot explain to people why the European Parliament is voting on such an absurdity. This undermines trust in the European Union." They feel there are far more pressing issues to deal with than the names of vegan patties, but not everyone thinks it's absurd. Some people want to know exactly what's meat and what's soy, and they want it written clearly on the packaging. So if you're a fan of vegan schnitzel, get ready for a rebrand. It's also no secret that South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world. We hear about it constantly. Because of this, the country's economy and social systems are now under threat. So, the country's president, Lee Jae-myung, has proposed a novel solution. To have more babies, people need to work less. You heard that right. The South Korean president believes the main problem is an excessively long workday. It's reported that the average Korean works almost 1,900 hours a year, which is 130 hours more than the average in other developed countries. As a result, people have no time left for a personal life. The plan is to gradually reduce the work week from 40 to 36 hours without any loss in pay, and then eventually move to a 4-day work week. A special working group is being created to manage this, and the government is promising subsidies to companies that suffer losses. Naturally, the trade unions are thrilled. They believe this is the only way to save the country's demographics. Business leaders, on the other hand, are not just unhappy, they're in a panic. The whole world is now watching to see if this idea will work. So, let's quickly recap what we've covered. We saw Ursula von der Leyen cling to power in the EU, while Germany rolls out desperate measures to fix its economy. We have a stunning ceasefire in the Middle East, with Donald Trump at the center of the praise. Meanwhile, the EU Parliament is busy renaming vegan burgers, and South Korea is about to launch a radical experiment to shorten the work week to encourage people to have more children. There is always more to the story, and I'll be here to share it with you. If you appreciate this independent perspective and want to help me continue to cut through the noise, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you can, consider becoming a sponsor. It's your support that makes this all possible. I'll be back tomorrow.